our culture is very deeply rooted in religion and Islam and our Islamic values and taking care of each other and supporting each other. And generosity is a huge aspect of the religion as a whole. So I think that's one aspect to it. And as Saudis, no matter how much we develop, no matter how much we diversify the economy, no matter how large scale our projects are internationally, we never lose touch with who we are, our culture, our values.
Welcome to One in Tribe. I am your host, Julie Fidalgo, and I am so happy that you have joined me today. Today's guest is Lama Alhamawi. Lama Alhamawi is a senior journalist and the founder and host of the podcast Discussions. As a journalist, Lama leads the diplomatic section covering foreign affairs and Saudi Vision 2030 initiatives. Her journalistic work includes reporting on humanitarian efforts in countries like Sudan, Somalia, Syria, Palestine, and Ukraine, as well as covering major forums and summits in the GCC. As the founder and host of the podcast, Discussions, Lama focuses on social impact by democratizing information. Discussions features conversations with a diverse range of influential figures, from government ministers and CEOs to artists, to make valuable career and life insights accessible to a broad audience. Lama also maintains a significant media presence on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, where she shares her work and engages with a large audience. Her combined efforts in journalism, podcasting, and social media highlight her commitment to strengthening diplomatic ties and educating the public about regional events. Welcome, Lama, to One in Tribe.
Thank you for having me, Julie. That was a very flattering and nice introduction. It was perfectly.
Yay, we're off to a good start.
Amazing.
So, Lama, the first thing I like to ask my guests is for them to describe themselves in 3 words.
It's a tough one. I think number one, hardworking. I think as a journalist, you have to be very hardworking. It's not a 9-to-5 schedule. Empathetic. As a journalist, you have to have empathy. You have to have compassion towards everyone around the world, especially when you're working in diplomacy, people that speak different languages than you, people that have different traditions than you. I think empathy is very important. And ambition. I would say ambition, just because that also, I'm very biased as a Saudi, but as Saudis, we're very ambitious in the work that we're doing, especially with Vision 2030. So for me, those are my top 3 if I had to summarize, who I am as a person.
Well, I've definitely gotten that from watching you on Discussions. I've watched some episodes, and I do see that you have that fire and that ambition. So that's amazing. Let's move on to who is Lama? Where was she born? Where is she from? What was your childhood like? And where do you currently live?
Yep. So childhood was very diverse. We traveled quite a bit. So I was born in Thailand, in Bangkok. And
no way.
Yes. So when I show people my ID or my passport, that's always a conversation starter because they're like, Thailand, that's okay. So it's always an interesting topic of conversation. So we traveled quite a bit. And this is something that, I was very blessed to have in my childhood. My father traveled for work. So we were able to experience so many different cultures, so many different languages and traditions and geographic locations. And I think that's what led me to pursue diplomacy as a career very naturally, because I genuinely had that passion for people and connection from a young age. So we traveled in every country you can imagine. Obviously, my siblings traveled much more than I did. And then we settled in the US for most of my education. So early childhood up until, my early 20s was in the US, specifically in Texas. And then I made my way back home to Saudi, and now I live back home in Riyadh, in the capital of the kingdom. And it's constantly changing. It's constantly evolving. So I feel like I'm living in a new Saudi almost every day. There's always something happening. But it's genuinely a true blessing that led up to this point.
That's amazing. So both of your parents are Saudi?
Both of my parents are Saudi, yeah.
Okay, amazing. Thailand, huh? I love Thailand.
It's beautiful. The nature, the sea, it's beautiful.
Have you gone back in your adult life?
I've gone once, but I would like to go more often.
Okay, nice. Well, you mentioned Saudi and how it's been changing a lot, and every day seems like a new Saudi. So, why don't we start with that? What are some stereotypes about Saudi Arabia that you wish people would finally stop making, and why?
I love this question, Julie. I love this question. And I always ask any visiting delegation that we have, what are common misconceptions that you have in your country? You know, whether it's the Western side of the world, if we're close to Middle East, everyone has a misconception of a country they've never visited, and it's common. It's normal unless you've been in the country and learned about the people and traditions. I think the misconception of women. I think who we are as Saudi women, how we live our lives, the opportunities that we have. I think this is a common misconception that I've seen not just in the Western world, but globally. And I think it's due in part because this is what the mainstream media has, surrounding Saudi women. Plus, their information is decade old. It's quite literally a decade old before Vision 2030, before the initiatives that happened. And when you have information that's outdated and it's so congested in the media, it's bound to be circulated constantly. And this is what people hear, and this is what people know, they believe to know before they come to the country. So I always say, in order for you to fully understand a country and its people and its values, you have to visit. You have to at least sit down with a person from that country with a fully open mind. I've had misconceptions about countries that before I've traveled to as my career as a journalist. And when I visited the country, my mind was blown because I just came in with an open mind and open questions. I didn't have an agenda. And I think when you come in with an open mind, you fully understand people. And honestly, with Saudi women, if I can just add this part, we're leading across all sectors. And a lot of people don't know that we have multiple female ambassadors holding positions around the world. For starters, Her Royal Highness Princess Rima bint Bandar, who is the Saudi ambassador to the US. And we have numerous ambassadors around the world that are women. A lot of the CEOs that I know in tech startups are women. And that's due in part with the support of Vision 2030. But even prior to Vision 2030, people don't know this. The Shura Council in Saudi Arabia in 2013, I think, had over 30 female members, 30 female leaders in the council. This is a governmental council. But Saudi Vision 2030 just propelled that, and it gave us more opportunities. So a common misconception, I think, is day-to-day life as a woman that I think we're countering here and there, but people have to come with an open mind as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think Saudi has always been such a mysterious country because it was closed for many years. And now I think it was 2019 that they started providing visas for tourism.
Yes.
A lot of changes have been happening, but for sure, this idea of Saudi and Saudi women, like you said, is like 10, 20, 30 years old. And so it's time people catch up with the current, situation in Saudi.
Very true, very true. And even female participation in the workforce, it's gone up tremendously as a result of Vision 2030. I think, in 2019, we were at 18%, I want to say 23%. And now we're around a little bit over 35% female participation. So that's as a result of just Vision 2030 that was launched recently. People don't understand that Vision 2030, it's less than 10 years old, and the transitions been made are tremendous. So life for Saudi women is completely different now.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about Vision 2030 for sure, especially because that's one of the focus with your work. But you mentioned that when people come to Saudi that you ask them what are the misconceptions, but I'm assuming you've had friends come and visit you from abroad. What's the first time, what surprises them most about Saudi?
Do you know what's so funny is I've invited friends from Texas, very Republican, conservative, small town friends to come and visit Saudi. And they have. And I credit to them because all they've seen is just, this congested media of what Saudi is. That's not true. It's not always true. So when they come, it's completely a new world. So misconception for them, they thought it was just oil. Everyone just works in oil. Everything's oil focused. And it's very funny saying, even taking them to the financial district in Kaft and showing them, the different headquarters that are there of global companies. Really, I think just the diversity of Saudi catches them off guard. And even when we go to different regions, that's what catches them off guard, that it's more than oil. I mean, as a result of Vision 2030, we've diversified. So I think that's what catches them off guard. And as cliche as it sounds, this is funny saying it as a Saudi, but you'd be surprised. People think everyone's a millionaire, that we're all extremely wealthy, and you'd be shocked. I have friends that come to me, they're like, but you guys live in normal houses? Is that a Toyota Camry? And I'm like, yes, it's normal people. It's quite literally all levels of, the socioeconomic ladder.
Oh.
So that's something funny enough that people are shocked to see, which sounds outrageous to say out loud, but it's very interesting.
And then what is like the first culture shock that somebody from Texas, conservative Republican, have when they first step into Riyadh or
Do you
Saudi?
know what it is? And I think this is just one thing I really admire about the Riyadh airport, the international airport, when you arrive. I think it breaks misconceptions immediately from point one when you exit that gate. Because you have employees that are working there. It's a lot of Saudis, it's a lot of Saudi women. And even when I showed them, the list of some of the CEOs that I know that are running these major, major companies and major firms in Saudi, all female led. So I think for them coming from that mindset of like, oh, wow, Saudi women are really excelling. They're creating jobs for other people around the world. Expats are coming here as a result of those jobs being created. So I think that's a common misconception. And also on a more lighthearted note, the weather. I think they're not so used to how hot it gets in the summer, but we love it. I love it. You get to tan and it's sunshine all year round. It's beautiful.
I heard once a long time ago, I heard that you can easily fry an egg on this pavement. That's how
Yes,
hot it gets.
yes and no. Depends the time of year, but yes, you can. Yes, it's possible.
Yeah. That's I'm excited. I finally got my ticket to Dubai, and I'm stopping in Riyadh for 4 years. So I'm really 4 years, 4 days. Yeah.
No, you have to message me, Julie. That's amazing. I'll show you around. You have to.
Yeah, I would love that. I'm coming with my mom and my sister, but we're really excited.
Amazing. I love that. You love it.
Yeah. Inshallah. So, how do you personally help shift the perceptions, whether through conversation or work or your work or daily interactions?
Yeah. So I approach it very naturally. I don't believe in propaganda. Propaganda doesn't work. When we're trying to push an agenda, push a topic to people, it's not going to resonate with them naturally. So I always, through my social media presentation, who I am, I present myself very naturally. Yes, I am a journalist. Yes, I heavily work with the government. But what you see is what you get. It's very approachable. It's very natural. And I also show the truth and the reality of what's happening in Saudi. I'm not going to tell you everything is absolutely perfect. I will show you the initiatives of what we're doing to improve. But I will also highlight, we've reached this milestone, but there's still a way to go. We still can improve in this area. And I think when you approach it very naturally, you're not pushing an agenda. It really resonates with humans. It really resonates with people. And even traveling globally, I present myself as who I am, and then people are interested to know more about Saudi because they're like, oh, wow, you're a Saudi woman. I've never met a Saudi woman. Tell me more. Tell me more about the country. Tell me more about the opportunities there. Tell me about the developments of Vision 2030. So for me, I always approach it through a natural lens. I represent myself first, and then I represent, obviously, the kingdom as a whole. I do my best to. So I think naturally, but also I will say credit to the kingdom. They're doing an amazing job of really sending a message of who we are internationally in a language that people can understand. So when we have, I don't know if you've heard of His Excellency Turki al-Sheikh, so the General Entertainment Authority. So really they're communicating in languages that everyone understands. So in film, in culture, in boxing, in A-list celebrities, we're showcasing what the kingdom has to offer by leveraging the language that everyone understands, pop culture. And it's so easy and it's so brilliant to digest. And it's not, it's quite literally natural. So I think this is just one of the ways. But I think when people come to the kingdom, when they experience the kingdom, or when they meet a Saudi person, and it's very natural, they can understand it better. And that's where I believe natural conversations and human connections really play a role in breaking misconceptions.
Absolutely. I just saw yesterday that Tom Brady is coming out of retirement.
Exactly.
right? To
That's
play flag football.
literally that's his, and the person photographed next to him is His Excellency Turki al-Sheikh. So that's the General Entertainment Authority. So
Okay.
really showcasing what the kingdom has to offer in a natural way, in a way people are already watching. They love the pop culture, they understand it better, and that's how we bridge cultures. We find areas where we can collaborate, a bridge between the two, and football is one of them. Tom Brady is one of them.
Absolutely. That's super cool. Let's talk a little bit of the diversity of the geography of Saudi. People think it's just desert, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So, from the Red Sea coast to the empty quarter, which is a vast desert, which landscape feels most Saudi to you and why?
Yeah. That's difficult to say. It's really difficult to say because I think my opinion might differ from another Saudi's opinion. Like you said, because Saudi Arabia is so incredibly diverse. Um, so my family is from the central region, so I never had the privilege of experiencing the ocean side growing up, and we went to the ocean, but it wasn't surrounding us. So I'm used to the desert, which for me is Saudi. The empty quarter is Saudi. When I drive outside the outskirts of the central city of Riyadh and I can see the stars, and you're sitting in the desert and it's simple and it's calm and you can hear the buzz of just the silence at night, that's for me is Saudi. It's simple, it's humble, and in a way it kind of represents who we are as people. Yes, we're very privileged, alhamdulillah. We have these incredible resources and are supported tremendously by the government, financially. But we're very humble people. We're very simple. If you told us to go back to the desert, we would be happy. We would easily restart. We would easily do it because that's who we are. So for me, Saudi is the desert. It's the simplicity, again, of seeing the stars, of just the peace, the fire at night in the desert, darkness around you, and nothing but the brightness of the fire keeping you warm. So that for me is Saudi. When I travel abroad for a long time, I just miss that simplicity. I really do.
Yeah, I experienced my first time in the desert in Wadi Rum in Jordan last year. And to be there at night, it's like, first of all, we are so tiny in this universe, right? It just puts everything into perspective, but it really is so peaceful to be there in the middle of nothing. I loved the experience.
No,
So I look,
really, it's therapeutic as well.
for sure. Nature is therapeutic.
So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So, how do you think the geography influences the regional culture or traditions?
Um, so it's interesting you say that because we're currently in the year of handicrafts in Saudi Arabia. So every year we have a year celebrating the culture of Saudi. So I think previously we had the year of Saudi coffee, which highlighted, the different types of coffees regionally within the kingdom, the beans themselves. And now it's handicrafts, traditional handicrafts. And I was doing research on it heavily for a project that we're doing now. And my job as a news reporter and, culture and diplomacy, it's so incredibly diverse because when you go to the regions, the coastal regions, like when you have Jeddah, when you have Umluj, their handicrafts and their tradition and their culture is heavily influenced by their environments. So we saw sometimes jewelry made out of seashells or things that are found near the ocean, and that heavily impacts the culture that's still seen today. And even the architecture of Jeddah, Al-Balad, the Hijaz region, it's heavily impacted by the coast and migration of different cultures, and it's a beautiful blend that you'll see. If you go to Al-Ahsa, which is, one of the largest palm oases in the world, you'll see you'll see palm weaving from the leaves of the palm trees, and that's still embedded in the culture to this day. And these are ancient handicrafts. But I think, despite it being so incredibly diverse, we're all connected. And the kingdom was unified in 1932 by King Abdulaziz, and we were just completely immersed into each other. Yes, it was diverse, but there's still a lot of overlap in the culture that we can see today, and that overlap comes down to our values, which is generosity, hospitality. But it's so interesting. Even if you come to Saudi today, and Julie, you'll see it if you come visit the central region in Riyadh, and if you go to Jeddah, if you go to Abha, if you go to Al-Ahsa, it is so incredibly diverse, but you still feel the sense of unity based off of values of just hospitality, generosity, and just who we are as Saudis people. Even our accents are different in different areas and provinces, completely different. I might sound different than someone from a different region, but it's beautiful that we can all unite on these cultural values that are still embedded from, the first Saudi state from over 200, 300 years ago.
Wow. The way that you speak, it's so easy to understand. Like, I love how you put your thoughts into words, and it really portrays, and you can totally picture what you're saying. So I appreciate the way you communicate.
No, that means a lot. I'm usually good I'm the best at writing. I'm not usually the best at speaking, so that means a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, no, totally. Okay, so I'm coming to Saudi. Unfortunately, I'm only coming for 4 days, and I'm only going to Riyadh. It's going to be a quick trip. But if somebody had only 1 week to explore the country, we're not going to just make this about Riyadh, which under the radar region would you send them to first?
Oh, that's a tough question. Under the radar. So obviously everyone knows the main cities. They know Riyadh, they know Jeddah, they know the main cities. If you're looking for off the radar, where you might not see, you'll still see a lot of tourists, to be frank, honestly, because it is such a beautiful place. I would say Abha. I would say Asir. They're mainly mountainous. They're elevated, and during the summertime, it is just beautiful to be there because it's kind of an escape from the heat. The landscape, it is just lush greenery. It is incredibly peaceful. Very opposite to, Riyadh as a whole, because Riyadh is very busy, go, go, go. And when you go to Abha and Asir, it's so peaceful and it's so local and it's so humble. And you'll see everything is kind of a farm to table approach. So you'll see markets selling local honey, local produce, and there's beautiful greenery there. And it's known, even Taif as well. Taif is known for their roses. Taif is another city as well in Saudi that I highly recommend. It's just an escape. And to see that greenery, it really shows you the diversity of the landscape, where you have the desert, you have the ocean, but the greenery surrounding you everywhere you look. And it's elevated and it's peaceful, and the people are so incredibly kind and hospitable, and they will invite you to their farm automatically. And I've seen it. I've experienced it firsthand just walking through the streets. I've been invited to farms. I've been invited to try honey. I've been invited to try produce picked from their farmlands. And it really shows who we are. It's these cities that aren't as known internationally that really highlight who we are as Saudi people. And I think it's just so beautiful.
When somebody invites you to their home to try the honey or the farm, do you usually go?
I go. I know. Do you know what it is? When I first came from the US, I was a bit shocked. I was like, well, this doesn't seem safe, because I think when you're so used to the US, it's not as common. We have Southern hospitality in Texas, obviously, but it is nothing compared to Saudi hospitality. Southern hospitality might be, let me have you over for dinner. Saudi hospitality is, come on, move in, and I'll show you the whole city. We'll get you a job. We'll get you started. What do you need? It's really just this generosity that's in our blood and it's in our roots. And do you know what's interesting is I've had expat friends that have come here and have been affected by that culture. So when I go to their homes now, it's immediately they're serving me coffee. What do you need? What can I get you? Let's have the driver take you everywhere. It's kind of infectious. It's this infectious positivity and hospitality of just who we are as people. And it's so beautiful to see that we're exporting that. We're exporting that hospitality. And honestly, the Ministry of Tourism is doing a great job of showcasing who we are. And it's just beautiful to see expats coming and kind of being immersed into that and like utilizing it in their own way as well.
Why do you think, because this is a underlying characteristic of Arabs that I talk about a lot, right? This hospitality, this generosity. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's wanting to connect with other people? Do you think it's just their love language is giving? Like, what? Because it's such a huge characteristic of Arabs, but why do you think it is, if we can dig a little deeper?
I've thought about this question a lot, and I've actually asked colleagues that I've worked with previously, Saudis from different parts of Saudi. In my opinion, I think it falls into two different categories. So our culture is very deeply rooted in religion, in Islam, and our Islamic values, and taking care of each other and supporting each other. And generosity is a huge aspect of the religion as a whole. So I think that's one aspect to it. And as Saudis, no matter how much we develop, no matter how much we diversify the economy, no matter how, large scale our projects are internationally, we never lose touch with who we are, our culture, our values. And another aspect to it is the Arabian Peninsula, prior to, when we're talking 300 years ago, there was a lot of migration. There was a lot of people coming in and out. And even during the first Saudi state, there was a lot of migration from different landscapes, for weather reasons, for whatever it may be. So there was always an open door policy that we had as Arabs, and as Saudis more specifically. So I spoke with a friend of mine who's from Mecca originally, and her great grandfather, she remembers they would tell them stories about the door would always be open; it would never be shut. If the front door was shut, there was a huge problem in the home, and they would always bring people in, serve them, house them overnight. Are you traveling through, the holy city? Where are you going? There's always a room available for guests, and if that door is shut, there's going to be an argument in the house. It's always been that culture of how can we, accommodate you, come in, be welcome. And I think based off of the religious values and based off of the idea of, migration happening a lot in the Arabian Peninsula, we never lost touch with that culture. Even to this day, we've seen it develop for the modern world, but we've never lost touch of that culture and that value. So I think those are the two reasons, in my opinion. I'm not an expert, but that's what I believe.
Which leads me to the next question. Do you think as the country becomes more modern, well, it's already modernized, but opens up more and more tourists come, do you think it will be something that's going to be easily maintained? Or do you think it can get lost in the openness of the country?
I don't think it could get lost because we've developed so much. Even when we look historically at the kingdom's, evolution from the first Saudi state, the second Saudi state, third Saudi state, and then the unification of the kingdom, it's never been lost. I think it's been developed over time, but we still maintain that roots of who we are. And I think it's because Saudis as families were very close knit. We see each other, if not extended family, if not daily, we see each other weekly with gatherings, and it's so close. That community of Saudis and who we are is very, very close. I don't think it'll ever be lost. But in terms of cultural traditions, there are initiatives in place now to teach the next generation. Because if you're being born into a modern Saudi, you're going to be immersed in so many different cultures, so many different languages and foods, just because Saudi Arabian Vision 2030 has opened up. So the Ministry of Culture, the Heritage Commission, they do a really good job of educating the public about what are our ancient handicrafts, what are our traditions, both tangible and intangible traditions, how we pour our coffee, our attire for these gatherings. And I think when you're constantly surrounded by this messaging of who you are, the culture outside of your home and also in your home, within your family, I don't think it's lost. And I think it's something we pass down from generation to generation. And I don't see it ever being lost.
I love that. I love the initiative to keep that going for the younger generation. I think that's really important. So let's talk about your daily life in Saudi. Can you walk us through a typical day and what your routines might, or what kind of routines might surprise an outsider?
I don't know if my day-to-day is healthy, Julie, so I don't know if I want to share it, but it's it's very corporate toxicity, I guess. But no, so
At least you're aware.
I'm aware. No, my doctor is aware. I'm aware. My nutritionist is aware. My trainer at the gym, we're all aware. I think it's all a united mission to help Lama. So I work two jobs technically. So as you know, I'm a full-time journalist. I work in diplomacy and foreign affairs. So that on its own is an extremely demanding job. And then I started a media company called Discussions, and underneath it is a podcast where we just want to democratize information. So I'm doing this balance of managing the two, but I also do a lot of projects with youth because a lot of our population in Saudi Arabia is youth, and I want to bridge that knowledge gap. So anytime we're doing workshops, we're doing lectures, where I'm responding to LinkedIn and giving advice, or I'm scheduling Zoom calls to help as much as I can. So my schedule is a bit messy. So I start my mornings fairly early, and I try to be in bed as soon as possible, unless we have any delegation visits. If we have governmental visits, delegation visits, you're not going to be sleeping till the next day. But that's okay. That's journalism. So I start my day fairly early, 6:30 a.m. I try to go to the gym. If it's a busy morning, I'll skip the gym. I'll head into the office. Traffic is a bit bad, but we have the metro that's helping, so it is a bit optimistic there. And it's always go, go, go. So I have lunch meetings all around. Really, it's a very corporate environment, but what's peaceful and nice is the weekends is a calm period for me. So again, I try to venture out of the city to kind of see the stars as much as I can. I am traveling quite a bit. I love traveling, but I think with this job, it forces you to love traveling and you get a lot of points. So that's really nice. But day to day, it's really diverse for every Saudi because there's so much going on. The days that are a bit slower for me, I might go to Pilates, I might relax, I might have meetings. So there's so much to do in Saudi. So my day to day might be 100% different to somebody else's. I have a friend that gets up in the morning. She's a stay-at-home mom. She's actually from the UK, which is very interesting because she's immersed in Saudi culture more than me at this point. So she gets up in the morning, she has her Saudi coffee, and then she goes horseback riding. So horseback riding is a pivotal part of Saudi culture. I don't do it at all. I don't have time. But I see her stories and she's horseback riding. Or she's doing archery. And it's so interesting. Or she's taking out her kids to go shopping. So it's very diverse. Our day to day might be different than anybody else's, but that's what's beautiful about Saudi. There's something for everyone.
Mm. And a lot of people may not know this. Today's Thursday, and today is actually the start of the weekend.
It is. It is. Actually, it is. Yeah. So you'll see the city is going to come alive at night. We're a bit nocturnal just because of the weather. And also, we don't sleep as Saudis. I've come to find out we just don't sleep. We work and we have fun. We spend time with family and we drink Saudi coffee. This is the end of the routine.
I was actually wondering, do things open? Because I've heard about, I know that you guys are pretty nocturnal and a lot of it is the weather, but things do open during the day, right?
Oh, for sure. No, everything is open. So
Okay.
I've traveled to different countries in Europe and the US, and I was surprised that things close fairly early. No, things open very early in the morning, 8, 9 a.m., and they stay open all the way until the late evening. You can, some places till 2, 3, 4 a.m. Some places are 24-hour. It just depends. So my gym opens at 6 a.m., and it doesn't close until midnight, sometimes 2 a.m.
Wow.
So really, it's interesting because, like I said, Saudi is so diverse. You have people like me who are in bed by 9:30 if it was up to them, and then you have people that are up all night. So really, there's something for everyone.
Yeah, I think one thing that surprised me in Jordan was how coffee shops, people are drinking coffee at like midnight, 2 o'clock in the morning. And obviously that's unheard of here, but it is such a nocturnal culture.
It is, and we have a heavy coffee culture. Honestly, Saudi coffee is incredible. We have a coffee shop called Jazeen, and they have coffee beans from Jazan. So they do their own coffee roast, and I've never tasted anything like it. It was so interesting. Saudi coffee beans, and it's become such a big culture, and we're exporting that culture, that coffee culture in Saudi internationally. So coffee is a huge part of our lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of coffee, which is obviously a smell and a taste, what small details, whether it's sounds, smells, or rituals, instantly tell you you're in Saudi?
I mean, so, oh, this is tough. There's two, honestly. As cliche as it is, it's the smell of Saudi coffee because it's very distinct, and I think it brings me at ease. And when you arrive at King Khalid Airport, when you taste the coffee, once you arrive, it's very peaceful. It brings you back home. It's steady, it's calming, it's light, and it reminds me of childhood because even growing up, my mom used to make Saudi coffee every single day. Even in our small town in Texas, this was a part of our daily lives. So I think the smell of Saudi coffee is one thing. I'm trying to think what else. It's such an interesting question. The smell, I think, the adhan, the sound of the adhan, so the call to prayer is beautiful. But obviously, we hear it in so many different Islamic countries. But for me, when I hear those two things, when I have the adhan and when I have the Saudi coffee, I know, okay, I'm at home. I feel the sense of home.
Wow. The Idan, you can hear it from anywhere.
Yes, quite literally anywhere. Unless maybe you're in the outskirts of like the city in
Mm.
that quarter. And there are a few mosques there, but if you're really deep into the desert, you might not be able to hear it. But no, you can hear it mostly everywhere in the city.
And then does the city stop for that moment of prayer? Like if you're in the line for a coffee shop, for example, and this might be a silly question, but
It's okay.
I don't know. Like, so if you're in line for a coffee and then the call to prayer happens, is it business as usual or is there like a pause?
Yeah, no. So there prior, everything used to close, when we were younger children. Now there's an option for both. If you want to close for prayer, you're more than welcome to. And if you want to stay open and continue your businesses, you can as well. So it really tailors to all audiences, all demographics of people. But what's beautiful is it allows the employees the time to pray. So if they want to go pray, they can go pray. And if they want to continue working, they can continue working. It's fully optional. And shops as well have that option of do they want to close or do they not? And I think it's beautiful to give people the option, because you get your tasks done, you can get your work done as well. But you also have that option to say, hey, I'm going to stop and have a prayer break. And I think that's what's beautiful. It's modern Islam in a sense where you have those options.
Quick question. This is a little off topic. Are the youth, how do I word this? Like, are the young people, because it's such a young population, are they very strong in their beliefs when it comes to religion?
For sure. What I've seen, 100%, 100%. And I think it just comes naturally if this is your surrounding. And I don't mean, societally outside of your home. I mean, quite literally within your home. We replicate what we see around us. So in Jummah, what I really love about Saudi is Jummah morning, it's Friday. We have the Friday prayer, which is called Jummah. You'll see when the call to prayer happens, you'll look out your window and you'll see the streets full of men going to pray to the mosque. And they have the little kids with them and they're all wearing their thobes and you have the fathers holding the hands of little kids. So it's this tradition that's being passed on. And I think globally, when we speak about globally, people need to believe in something. We need to have hope in something, regardless of what your religious beliefs are, people need hope. And I think what makes Saudi so strong and what makes us so strong societally is that religion is embedded into our beliefs generationally. It's passed down. So, and I think that's where the idea of hospitality comes in, the generosity, who we are as people, our behavior, how we interact with people domestically and internationally is really rooted into the religion. So I think if you're surrounded by that everywhere, it's really difficult to lose it.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's shift a little bit and speak about opportunities for women in Saudi and support systems. What policies or community initiatives have made the biggest difference for women pursuing higher education or careers?
So there's been so many, to be honest. So prior to Vision 2030, we had the King Abdullah Scholarship Program that fully paid for your bachelor's, master's, doctorates, whatever it may be, internationally. So we were fully paying for accommodation and then monthly salaries for students. This was prior to Vision 2030. As of Vision 2030, there have been so many programs. So for me, a priority of mine, obviously, I'm still very single, independent, working very hard, but something I look forward to in the future is having that work-life balance and having that support if I need it in terms of childcare. So we have multiple programs. One of them is the Qura program. And the Qura program, it provides childcare subsidiary. So financial support if you need to put your children in childcare and say your income isn't enough monthly, this is fully supported by the government. So this is money that they're sending out every month to make sure if you are a working mom, you do have that money to put your child in childcare. Another one is the Wusul program. And this one is, I did a story about this because I was curious of how helpful it actually was. A friend of mine was using the program. So it's for women that are making a certain amount of money monthly or maybe don't have support for transportation. So the Wusul program, it gives you low-cost transportation through any, transportation main platform. So for example, Uber was one of them that they worked with. Rather than your ride costing $30 to get to work, you might pay a fraction, $5, something very small, very small. So this is on the way to work, from work, fully paid by the government. So if you don't have transportation, if your income isn't that high, the government will help you get to work, and this is for women. So this was an incredible program that was happening to support women to get to and from work. But again, this is just 2 programs. There's been so many, a lot of them. And also, we've expanded careers and career opportunities as a result of Vision 2030. This is what I've seen. For example, prior, women maybe worked mainly in the medical sector, or they worked in education. Now there's AI, there's tourism, there's hospitality, there's sports. So there's a huge expansion of the careers and options possible, with different salaries possible. But honestly, there's constantly rolling out support for women that I've seen that have changed the opportunities to get to work, from work, for education. And also, education in Saudi, we have private universities that are for money, but we have government universities that's completely free. And you can study anything, your bachelor's, master's, doctorate's completely free. So these are just some of the initiatives to support students and people in their careers.
Government is thinking about everything, huh?
Quite literally, because I think what's really nice is they listen to the people. I will say that. Twitter is a powerful source, and people like to voice their concerns very openly on Twitter. And it's easier to reach the government because all our government entities are on Twitter. So if you click on them, you see people voicing their concerns. Hey, we need this. Hey, this is an issue here. There isn't enough funding for this. There isn't, and it's resolved fairly quickly. This is the thing I really admire, is people for some reason think that we're not able to voice our concerns, or we're not able to communicate, the areas that need growth. But what's helped us reach and surpass, honestly, the goals of Vision 2030 is the government and the private sector entities are working closely with the people. What do you need? What do you want? Even in terms of the entertainment sector, we want to see this, we want to see that. Great. You want Six Flags? We built it in a matter of quick. You want the biggest gaming esports conference? We did it in 2 weeks. You want more governmental support? You want easier ways to transport on the city? We built a metro for you. We want this. We're seeing it firsthand. I think this is a misconception that people have, because the government's really listening to the people.
Yeah, it seems like teamwork. And obviously, when there's open communication between the population and the government actually listens, this is when you can really create a healthy, productive society.
I agree. And I've seen it, honestly, within the initiatives that we've had. The reason why it's become so incredibly successful is, again, teamwork, as cliche as it sounds.
Yeah. Can you share a personal story, or maybe a story of a woman breaking new ground in her field?
There's been so many, honestly, and we did a coverage on National Day a few years back about the Saudi leading pioneers, female pioneers. Obviously, it goes without saying, the ambassadors that are incredible. I also it's a bit of a shout out. I don't know, but this is, so she's the founder and she's the CEO of Sedam. She's an amazing family friend. Her name is Dr. Salwa Al-Hizza. So Dr. Salwa, she was one of the first women on the Shura Council in Saudi Arabia. So the council that helps make the laws and policy, she was one of the first women to do that. She's a pioneer. And she started this program it's fully, they're not making any money off of it as well. So they use AI to test people for diabetic retinopathy and to treat them so they don't go blind due to diabetes. And they go to these remote areas in Saudi Arabia with their kind of to-go trucks and their little medical treatments, and they treat people fully for free. And they started exporting that now. So they're working with low-income countries around the world, people that are in need, to do that. So this is just one incredible story of a Saudi pioneering woman. Another one is in Taif, actually. I mentioned Taif, one of the cities previously that's known for roses. So there was a woman in Taif who was left with these acres of land, of rose farms that was passed down to her. But obviously when you're in a very, I don't want to say secluded area, but when you're in an area and all you have is just farms of roses, your only option quite literally is to pick up the roses and sell them to make profit. You don't have the resources, the digital resources, to kind of export that or build on that. And what the DCO did. The DCO is the Digital Cooperation Council, I believe. Yes. So they're a government entity in Saudi. They work really with amazing people in Saudi and outside Saudi to give them resources, digital resources, to create income sustainability for themselves and their families. This is a fully government organization. So what they did with this story and the Buy of Roses woman is they went to her and they helped her figure out how to produce oils from the roses, how to export that, how to create businesses online. And now she's connecting with perfumery companies to sell the rose oils internationally. So this is one success story. And now her whole family is employed with her on this farm. So this is just one of the stories that I've seen. And it's incredible because that impact is generational. She can pass down that income to herself, her children, this business. It creates opportunities for other people and buy other job opportunities. So this is one story that was a result of Vision 2030 that I can name. But again, there's so many more, to be honest. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, now let's talk about media, which is your world.
It is.
How is Saudi media evolving as the country opens up to the world?
So how has it evolved so I think the diversity of the topics that we've covered has evolved tremendously. From 2016 to now. Before it was very political and it was very smaller topics, narrow range of topics that we could cover. Now it's diversified in terms of entertainment, sports, culture, tourism, business stories that are coming out from Saudi that are away from oil. I think this is one of the topics around Vision 2030. And as a result of that, it's created opportunities in all sectors. Media landscape has changed, and even multimedia. So we've seen podcasting, obviously this is a podcast, but we've seen podcasting in Saudi really just kickstart and just really spark its way, English podcasting and Arabic podcasting. We've seen, I think the way we consume news is different as well. Before we only had, the news agency, the government news agency, and we had maybe some accredited news outlets. Now we have independent journalists, we have influencer journalists on social media that do interviews on the ground. I think as a result of Vision 2030 also, we have more access to high-level officials, so ministerial level and higher, to where I can just request an interview, get an interview. I'm sitting across from a minister. I think you can't really do that in other places of the world. It's not easily as accessible. So the access to information is more readily available, and the diversity of the topics for sure as well.
Yeah, one thing I'm finding, I've interviewed a few Saudis and just Arabs in general, but they want to tell their story. And I find that, and that's what's cool. For example, I know the Mo Show is one of the first English speaking podcasts based out of Saudi. And yeah, I think it's time that they're sick of the narrative being told for them, and now they want to take control of it. And so I think that's really cool, and that's why I love having you on as a guest. And you're also very relatable to a Western audience because you were also raised here. So I think sometimes the messaging is easier to absorb when it is from a more neutral standpoint, I guess.
It is. And it's also, like you said, finding that common ground and communicating in a way that we can all understand, where something doesn't feel extremely foreign to them.
Right.
I think when we find that bridge, the connections between the two, the commonalities between the two, that's when we can have real conversations.
Absolutely. What is unique about telling Saudi stories for both local and global audiences?
So Saudi stories, I think, in a way, they're still untold, if that makes sense. We have them in Arabic, and we've communicated them in Arabic internally, domestically, and they're so incredibly beautiful because I think there's a lot to learn from the Saudi experience. There's a lot to learn from Saudi knowledge. One of the reasons, sure, was Vision 2030. There's a lot to learn about that. But even prior to the vision, there's a lot to learn about resilience. There's a lot to learn about how we lived our life previously. Even on the topic of culture, how we interact with each other. I think information and access to information is such a powerful tool. And when you export that information, when you export experiences and stories, it's beneficial for everyone. So I think what makes it unique and what makes it beneficial is just lived experience. And it doesn't have anything specifically to do with Saudi, but even globally. We can learn a lot from people in Singapore. We can learn a lot from people in Brazil. We can learn a lot from people in Mexico and China and in Peru and in Qatar. I think when you have these stories, experiences specific to that culture, specific to that country, and you export it, it not only bridges barriers, it not only connects us as people, but it helps us learn and evolve as a human race by being exposed to diversity. So I think that's what's unique, and that's what's so beneficial about exporting Saudi stories, is that it can connect us and people can learn and vice versa.
Yeah, I think now more than ever, people want to know more. And thank God we've got technology to help that happen. But speaking about stories and connection and Saudi stories, you recently launched, I don't know how recent, I think within the last year, right?
Well, this
This year?
year,
This
February.
year. Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. So you launched a podcast called Discussions. What made you start a podcast?
So, as I told you, as we've discussed, a lot of the population in Saudi is made up of youth. We have a huge demographic. I think last I checked was 70% under the age of 35, but it might have changed a little bit. But a huge, huge population under the age of 35. And I'm very active on social media, and I always get questions and comments of, Lama, how do I do this? If you were going to enter this job sector, what's the best way to get a job interview? What's the best way to connect with this person? What's the pay range I should expect from this job? Or even life experiences. They have questions about life experiences. And as much as I like to believe I know everything, I don't know everything. So the idea of discussions was to bring, I call them friends. They're people that I've met. It's leveraging my network and the people that I know to bring them on the podcast, have an hour-long conversation with them, and answer all the questions people want to know. Regardless of, what sector you want to go into, I will bring you everyone. It's diversified. So what we're trying to do is democratize information and access to information. So as a journalist, I've been working for a few years in Saudi. I have a network that's tremendously, I love it. It gives me connection to every sector I can think of, every official I can think of, private sector, governmental. I want to use that to help the next generation and equip them with what they need. So, for example, if they want to go into medicine, I bring you a leading professor and doctor from one of the top, medical universities in Saudi, or even internationally. If you want to go into football, I brought you a football player. We just recently had a professional boxer, the top professional boxer in Saudi. We asked him, how is training like? What's your salary? Can you make money as a boxer? Questions that people really want to know. And that's what we're trying to do. We're just democratizing access and democratizing information in a language that people understand, which is podcasting. And that's how Discussions was born.
And are your guests mostly Saudi?
We have a mix. So if you look at the content, it's about a good split. Because Saudi is very diverse, and also because we're hosting some of the most major forums and summits. By luck, these high-level people are coming in, A-list celebrities are coming in, and we're just calling them up and getting them on the show. And most of the time, they're really willing to help. If they hear advice, if they hear, the next generation supporting them, they're on board immediately. So we have a good blend of locals and Saudis as well, expats, and people that are just coming in for 1 or 2 days.
Okay. I'm sure your Rolodex of contacts must be incredible.
No, answer you, Julie. I mean, look who's talking. I mean, answer you, quite literally.
I try. We talked about Saudi being a very young population. How do young Saudis view entrepreneurship and innovation?
Yep. Someone asked me this question at dinner yesterday as well. He asked
Oh,
if
really?
yeah, because I told him that I started my own media company. And he said, are all Saudis, looking to start their own businesses? Is this something that's common? I think it depends. We still have a lot of people that love their 9 to 5s. They want that stability. But because it's such a youthful population and because you have opportunities coming at you left and right constantly as a result of, the growth of the country, you can't help but look at the lens of, okay, well, that would be interesting to do. What if I try my hand at this? So we do have a huge entrepreneurial spirit in Saudi. And we also have programs that support it. So for me, I didn't know anything about licensing, how to start a business in Saudi, accounting and taxes. I had no idea how to do any of that. And we have it's a headache truly, but we have a program called the Saudi Business Center. So quite literally, it's an online platform and an in-person place you can go to, and they'll take you from A to Z on how to start a business. So I quite literally went to someone in there. I walked in, I showed them my laptop, and I said, I want to start a business, media company, help me. So it taught me everything. So from registration, the licensing that we need, how to find an accountant, how taxes work in Saudi, what licenses you need to operate, what invoices you need to keep track of, all free. So this is a free resource that we have in Saudi for locals and expats. So I literally saw expats coming in as well, starting their own businesses and getting advice on how to operate the platform. Obviously, you pay for the licensing, but this support completely accessible. So when you have programs like that, when you have programs like Munshaat, so Munshaat helps people that are in startup stages. So it provides you resources, offices, it provides you access to networks and mentorship. And even MISC. MISC is the Mohammed bin Salman. I don't think it's a foundation anymore, but they're an entity that supports the next generation of youth, whether it's they want to go into social work, whether they want to go into business. When you have these programs, I think surrounding you, and when you're seeing the changes, you can't help but want to be an entrepreneur. I can't say that everyone is going into it because there's still people that want that 9 to 5 and climbing the corporate ladder, which is perfectly fine. But you still see that spirit in the youth as well.
So it seems like for expats, it's even easy to start a business in Saudi, from what you're
There
saying.
have been, so it was more difficult in the past, like we talked about, even with tourism. Tourism, wasn't existent back then. Now it's much easier. There's also a premium residency program. It's basically it's like long-term residency in a country. So this allows you to start businesses. It helps you create investment much easier. So yes, I would say if you were to ask me 5, 6 years ago, how was it to start a business as a foreigner, I'd say much more difficult. You'd have to do it, somewhat through a partner who is Saudi, someone who's local on the ground. Now it's much easier, and I think it's a way to attract global investment into Saudi.
Okay. And with a lot of people coming to Saudi, whether as a tourist or to live, I actually follow a lot of different people from all over the world living in Saudi. I love getting their perspective. What advice would you give to a newcomer for not just surviving, but actually thriving in Saudi?
I like that, not just surviving, thriving. I would say have an open mind. I would say to a certain extent, go with the current of everything, but have an open mind. Ask open questions. I think it's okay to be curious and ask questions, and know your neighbors. I know people love the idea of living in a compound. I dread the idea of a compound because the whole idea of coming to a new country is being immersed in the country, the culture, the people, the challenges, maybe sometimes language barriers, maybe sometimes, weather issues. It's to be immersed in the culture and the country. So for me, I would say know your neighbors, get to know your neighbors, get to know as many Saudis as you can, travel, see the country. Road tripping is amazing. I know a lot of solo female road trippers that took their Jeeps all around the country, expats and Saudis, literally, because it's safe. It's so incredibly safe. And even if you get stranded, I've been stranded in the empty quarter. When I thought I had a 4-wheel drive, I did not have a 4-wheel drive. And it was so embarrassing having to call 911. And they sent troopers that quite literally dragged me out of the sand in my car. I was alone as well. It's safe. It's safe. This is one thing that when they come, people come, they'll notice it's safe. And again, it goes back to the heritage, the culture, our roots, and who we are. Know your neighbors, explore the country. Don't be afraid of the challenges. Your first week, month, it's going to be culture shock. It's going to be stressful. You might not be used to everything. And be open to the hospitality. People aren't trying to do anything to you. We're just genuinely nice people. So we will say that.
Perfect. Well, that kind of takes us to our last question, which is, well, as you know, this is a podcast about the Arab world, the MENA region, Arabs. What is one lasting message that you would like to leave the West with about the region, Saudi, Arabs, Saudis, anything? What would you like to share?
I think so. Governmentally, we have amazing relations already with the West. But I think on a societal level, I would want to tell them there's a lot of overlap. There's a lot of overlap in who we are, our cultural traditions, our language might be different, we might look different, but there's a lot of overlap in who we are as people. I will say that. And also, I think this is like an uncommon opinion, but there's a lot to learn from Saudi. I know people like to have the mentality of, we take know-how from other countries and we implement it, which we do, but we also export that information globally. There's a lot that can be learned from COVID, how we handled COVID, quite literally. There's a lot that can be learned from the national program to support the next generations, youth. Um, Also, I think in 2024 in the World Economic Forum, we were ranked, I think, 15th. Let me check. I think 13th globally in gender pay, so gender gap pay. So we were 13th globally in the entire world. That's higher than most Western countries, right? That women and men are paid equally globally. And so I think there's a lot that we can export. There's a lot to be learned from Saudi. I do want people to know that. And at the same time, there's a lot of overlap in who we are as people. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We might look different, we might speak differently, we might eat different foods, but we are all human beings, and I think there's a lot of overlap in that.
Yes, and this is why I named my podcast One in Tribe, because we are all from the same tribe, which is the human tribe. And if we can just see each other as such, the world could be so different.
The world could be beautiful. I think if we all just saw each other and treated each other as humans without having any misconceptions or having any, background knowledge that skews our perceptions, the world would be, as cliche as it sounds, the world would be so much brighter. It's so much better.
Absolutely. Lama, it has been a pleasure having you on One in Tribe. Can you please tell the audience where they can find you?
Yep. So I'm across all social media platforms. Instagram, I'm lema.lha. The podcast is Discussions Official Show, if you just type it in, and LinkedIn, and quite literally every platform that you can think of on media, I'm there, except Facebook. I'm not a fan. I'm so sorry. No.
No, it's too much. We can't be on everything. Like,
Exactly.
started with everything, and now I'm just choosing like 3 or 4 of them because it really can get overwhelming, especially I do this all on my own, so it is a lot.
No, but it's an amazing show, Julie. It honestly goes without saying. The content that you're making, it's really connecting people globally, and it's really showcasing what the Arab world has to offer on a global level, and also what the West has to offer on a global level. It's connecting us.
Thank you, and good luck to you with all of your many, many projects. Thank you so much, Lama. To all of you out there, I am so grateful that you have joined me for another episode. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, share, comment, all the stuff that you can do with podcasts. Thank you, and I will see you next time. Bye.